Well, when I was a little kid, you know, like I've always, I think, wanted to have a beard, because like the lessons like sitting in primary school that I really enjoyed the most were about, like, you know, gold miners and explorers and all that sort of stuff in 1800s, and they all had beards and they all looked pretty cool, I thought. You know, there was Ned Kelly, he was a good looking dude with his big sort of bushy beard, and I thought, well, I'd love to emulate that one day. And you know, like even as far as, you know, like there's a picture of me and my siblings like going to like a school, like we had a dress up day in primary school, and I've actually got, like, you know, burnt the cork and got myself a black beard happening there, so I think it was just always going to happen. And yeah, after that I sort of was in the Army Reserve for 11 years, and you know, so I had to be clean shaven there. Always had a mow, but you know, like every summer I'd grow a beard, you know, when we had a bit of time off, and then yeah, the time between shaves just got longer and longer, and then eventually quit, and yeah, that's the result. My name's Phil Edwards, and I've been living at Rosewater, but around the port for the last 12 years. I was born in Colac over in Victoria. Only stayed there till I was about probably 3, and then the whole family, because Dad was in like agriculture and farm management, so he started a business up in Oberon, up in New South Wales, up in the Blue Mountains. So lived up there for a fair few years as well, and then moved back down to Geelong for a while. So we're living in Geelong. So obviously, well, Dad was born there, so yeah, in case there's a question about it, yeah, Geelong supporter, lifetime. Anyway, then we, like Dad, got a job at an agricultural school over in Fiji, so the whole family moved over there for 3 years. He had a 3-year contract. So between the ages of 12 to 15, I was living over in Fiji. Probably some of the best years of my life, I reckon. And then, yeah, came back to South Australia. Dad got a job out at Roseworthy College, so we all settled in Gawler. And from there, you know, sort of started work. I worked for ETSA back in the day, did my apprenticeship, electrician, or electrical fitter mechanic it was. So, you know, just sort of do anything. I started moving around. I was over at Yorktown for a couple of years, then around the metro area, then ended up at Lee Creek. Moved from there over to, I did my 20 years with ETSA. Moved over to Roxby for a couple of years, working in the old and the new smelter over there. Once that all sort of wound up, I worked for myself for a while, electrical contracting, and then ended up, got a job with Origin Energy. Started off in the old gasworks down at Brompton, and then we were looking after like cogeneration plants and gas-powered engines, compressed natural gas sites and that led into a job out at the power station out at Torrens Island, the little one up the north end, up in the quarantine station end. I was up there for about 8 years. That job sort of went bust, well, for me anyway, and yeah, looking for things to do. I'd been out of work for a little while, you know, because you know, I was into my 50s by then, and yeah, that last job sort of really burnt me out. So I was looking for something where I could still use my skills, but you know, like you know, sort of help the community as well. And I used to, well, I still do every now and then, walk the dog down the wharf every morning, and I'd see these old dudes like getting onto the Elder, and got chatting with one of them. I said, what's the story? How do you get on as a volunteer here? And he said, well, you know, you just go and see, you know, the people in the office and do the paperwork, and away you go. And because as part of my job, like, I'd got a boiler ticket with, you know, like, because we were looking after a cogeneration plant, so, you know, a lot of the gas engines then ran through a waste heat boiler to make steam. So had a boiler ticket. And I brought that in, and oh yeah, that'd be great, you know, like, because you know, obviously steam powered tug, and so I started volunteering down there. Started off down in the boiler room. Didn't learn a real lot about the engine, but you know, I will say it's a beautiful thing when it's going. And then because of shortages of manpower, I ended up sort of working on deck, so handling ropes and doing that sort of thing. I think I was, how old was I? Doesn't matter, I was the youngest bloke there. So it was just like, in a lot of ways, it was like being an apprentice again, with these old blokes that knew everything there was to know. And it was like a matter of sort of trying to get some of that knowledge for myself. And I could hold my own, which it really puts you in a good spot, like when the banter starts. And I'm a pretty hard hitter every now and then. So there were some good times, especially around smoko and that sort of thing. And you had to be on your game. Back in those days, it was you'd go from 8 till 12, or 1-ish sometimes, depending how keen you were and how many jobs. Like if you had to finish a job, you'd stay on a bit longer. But then probably go over the pub for like 1 or 2 beers and then sort of head home. So a bit more of a chat and like that's when all a lot of the sea stories come out. Bloody hell. It'll make you blush. Probably not as directly sort of helping the community as like some other places where you can volunteer are, but at the time I needed to sort of look after myself as well. I was sort of pretty damaged unit. So it was actually the best place for me at the time. And although it's it's only an old boat, and it's sort of only really helping out the historical side of it, not necessarily people that much. It was the place for me at that time. It actually worked out really well. So from my work on the Yelta, I was aware that there was a job coming up in the museum. I was fortunate enough to get it. Started off casual and then was made permanent part-time, and that was about three years ago now, and been here ever since. Generally it's a lot of customer interaction, so like as people come in through the door, greet them, take the money off them, sell them a ticket, get them inside, explain sort of what's available inside here, where to see stuff if they've got something in particular they want to see. We help people out with like genealogy requests, like Uncle Fred come in on a boat in 1952, have you got a passenger list, have you got a picture of the ship, that sort of thing. We can help people out with that. And keeping the collection clean, we've got to sort of like make sure that when you come through there's not finger marks all over the cabinets and that sort of thing. We also do like talks for school groups, like mainly primary school kids coming through. On the mainly in my position on the ketch trade, we've got the Active 2, the replica ketch in here, so we can use that as a really good sort of teaching aid to tell kids a bit more about the history of Port Adelaide and the little boats that sort of were really the lifeblood of the place. Every day where the weather's half passable, I'll go and have lunch just sitting on the wharf. And look, water's like nature's sedative, it's a great thing. You can sit there and have something to eat and a quiet reflect. It's a great place to be, especially on a calm day. You see the dolphins in there, you see the birds, all sorts of like different people walking to and fro. It's a great spot to sit, probably the best lunchroom in the world, I reckon. Yeah, music, I've sort of always had an interest, but never done much about it until I actually started volunteering on the Yelta. And the skipper of the Yelta, who was the fleet manager for the museum, Stuart Davey, we got talking about music, and I said, I don't suppose you play bass, because I was trying to sort of get a band going. And he said, well, I do actually. And from that, anyway, long story short, we formed like an acoustic duo, and did a lot of Thursday nights up at the Dockside Tavern when that was running, and it was really good. It was because he had a really good voice. Mine wasn't too bad, but I could do harmonies. So I used to do the harmonies. I sang a few songs myself. He played harmonica, played guitar. I played guitar better. So yeah, mine was the sort of, I'm a passable guitar player. So I took did all the fiddly bits on the guitar, and he did all the harmonica stuff and the singing, and it was actually really good. But unfortunately, he died last year, which was a real blow, and I haven't really got back into it since, because it's just not the same at the moment. I hope that the old characters and people can still find a place here to sort of just be Port Adelaide people, because they're great people. I hope it's just not a big influx of hipsters that really just live in like Lego block houses and don't sort of spend any time trying to form a community. Happiest moment, well, there's two of them when my girls were born. They were really good times. Always, it's always a great thing. Starting with like a baby, and then they're up in their 20s now, and just watching them sort of go. So just the excitement and the happiness at sort of being able to sort of pass on some of my skills, hopefully, to them. To hopefully they can avoid some of the pitfalls that I fell into. Doesn't ever work out that way, but you try. Probably having people that love me in my life. It's you can't get far without that. I've got a great partner, great kids. A decreasing circle of friends, but the ones that are around are good friends. And that's the best thing. I would say be open to new ideas and just relax a bit. Like it's not a competition to like who dies with the most money wins. There's way more to life than money, and just sort of not sort of go with the flow, because dead fish go with the flow. But if you've got an idea, tell people. If you've got a some way of making more people happy, or more people, or making a better world, really, get it out there, Just don't get too caught up in, the day-to-days.